In 1837, the Ohio and Erie Canal is at the height of its power, and so is the small tavern sitting beside Lock 38 in the Cuyahoga Valley. Canal boats are stacked up, waiting their turn at the lock. Mule teams are resting on the towpath, and boatmen who've been moving cargo since, well, before sunup are ready for a meal, a drink, and a place to sleep. It isn't the deck of a 60-foot wooden hull. The tavern at Lock 38 is happy to oblige. No questions asked about who you are, where you come from, or what you're carrying. That tavern belonged to a man named Moses Gleason and his wife Polly. And the name people gave to this stretch of the valley describes exactly what kind of place it was. Hell's Half Acre. Today, that same building operates as the Canal Exploration Center, part of Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Rangers give lock demonstrations, families walk the towpath, and a bronze mule stands out in front, commemorating a way of life that vanished over a century ago. But underneath the museum exhibits is a history of hard living, violent death, and a Prohibition-era operation that kept Hell's Half Acre true to its name, long after the canal closed. Today we take a look at the history and haunts of the Canal Exploration Center in Valley View, Ohio, a building that spent nearly 2 centuries absorbing the roughest edges of life in the Cuyahoga Valley and may not have let all of them go. So if you're curious, let's take a walk through history. In the early 1820s, Ohio had a problem. Farms were producing more than families could consume, and getting surplus goods to market was nearly impossible. Roads were mud tracks, rivers were unreliable, and the journey to sell a wagon load of wheat could cost more than the wheat was worth. The solution the state landed on was to dig a canal by hand, 308 miles through Ohio wilderness connecting Lake Erie and Cleveland to the Ohio River in Portsmouth. Ground was broken on July 4th, 1825, and the workforce that showed up to dig it was largely Irish and German immigrants, working 14-hour days for 30 cents, plus food and whiskey. When the work pushed into the swampy stretches of the valley in the summer of 1827, disaster hit. Mosquitoes swarmed the men in hordes, and malaria swept through the camps. It's reported that there was a dead Irishman for every mile of the canal. These men were buried on the spot, giving the canal the grim nickname, the Irish Graveyard. By 1827, the Akron to Cleveland section of the canal was open. The first canal boat left Akron on July 3rd and arrived in Cleveland on the 4th of July to a grand celebration. Area farmers could now ship their corn, wheat, and whiskey for an average of 5 cents per ton, compared to the 15 or 20 cents per ton by wagon. The Cuyahoga Valley went from frontier backwater to commercial corridor almost overnight. Canal boats also brought visitors to the valley's small and formerly isolated communities. The village of Peninsula thrived as a canal town, with travelers stopping for hours at local dance halls and taverns. All along the canal, wherever the boats stacked up waiting at the lock, somebody opened a tavern. Around 1837, Moses Gleason purchased this property at Lock 38 to take advantage of the canal traffic. National Park Service records note that Moses ran the place alongside his wife, Polly. Polly Gleason was tough as nails. She ran a tavern on the Ohio and Erie Canal in the 1830s and 40s, managing a building full of rough canal boatmen and travelers in one of the most isolated stretches of the Cuyahoga Valley. No small feat for a woman in the 1830s. During its 150 years, the building at Hell's Half Acre served as a tavern, mercantile, private residence, boarding house, and a blacksmith shop. Now, the name Hell's Half Acre wasn't unique to this spot. It was a name applied across 19th century America to any stretch of real estate known for hard drinking, gambling, and the kind of activity that didn't make the local newspaper, unless someone got seriously hurt. But it's safe to say that Lock 38 earned the name. Canal life was not gentle. Boatmen worked brutal hours, living in close quarters on wooden boats with their families, and they actually earned very little. The towpath after dark was a dangerous place. Violence along the canal was common enough that it generated its own folklore, and some of that folklore has never entirely gone away. Further south on the canal at Lock 31, also known as Lonesome Lock, a man was ambushed on the towpath and beheaded by robbers. His ghost was said to roam the area searching for his head. I'll put a link to our video about that haunting in the description below. Canal boatmen refused to travel through that stretch after dark, tying up at either Peninsula or Boston for the night and moving through the lock in the morning. Although that story belongs to Lock 31, the atmosphere it describes belongs to the entire canal. And Moses and Polly Gleason's tavern set right in the middle of it, open for business. The canal era that made Hell's Half Acre possible didn't last forever. Producers used the canal less and less. Canals weren't able to compete with the railroads that were faster, cheaper, and they didn't freeze in the winter. One by one, canal towns that had grown up along the towpath started declining, and the Cuyahoga Valley went quiet in a way that it hadn't been since, before 1825. And then the spring of 1913, catastrophic flood tore through northeast Ohio and destroyed what remained of the canal's infrastructure for good. What the railroads hadn't finished, the water did. But the building at Lock 38 was still standing, and it was about to enter its most colorful chapter. You see, when prohibition arrived in 1920, it didn't stop people from drinking, it just changed where they did it. This building at Hell's Half Acre was reputed to be a bootlegging tavern where numerous and illegal transactions occurred through the 1920s. The old tavern sat in the wooded isolation of the Cuyahoga Valley, making it inconvenient for law enforcement. It was a perfectly positioned location with a 90-year reputation as a place where nobody asked too many questions. So think about what this building absorbed across its lifetime. Canal workers buried in the field alongside the water, boatmen living and dying on the canal with no home but a narrow wooden hull, the rough commerce of the towpath, the gambling, the violence, the desperate transactions of people passing through with nothing to lose. And then when the canal died, a prohibition operation that kept the worst of it going for another decade. Some buildings carry their history lightly. This one never did. Today, the Canal Exploration Center is a National Park Service museum. It has exhibits, lock demonstrations, and a bronze mule. On a sunny afternoon, it's as pleasant a stop as the towpath has to offer, but the valley around it has a long memory. The Ohio and Erie Canal towpath near the museum is said to be haunted by a Union soldier and his lover. Throughout the years, they have walked on opposite sides of the canal, never to meet again. The sightings are most common near the museum. Two figures walking parallel, separated by the water, never closing the distance between them. That image, the canal keeps two people apart even in death, carries a kind of sadness that's hard to shake. Canal Road itself, the stretch between Valley View and Rockside Road, is said to be haunted by a ghostly car. Drivers report headlights appearing behind them, following their vehicles along the road and then vanishing without explanation. People who know this stretch of road have learned not to be entirely surprised when the darkness behind them isn't quite as empty as it should be. And then there is Charles Carter. Carter grew up on a canal boat after his father died. The canal was his whole life. When he eventually settled down, he bought the lockkeeper's house at Pancake Lock, a few miles down the towpath. But his love of the canal never faded. In his final days, elderly and blind, he could be found wandering near the canal, wishing it would reopen. He died in 1913, the same year the flood destroyed the canal for good. Today, people walking the towpath near his old lock say they can still hear footsteps pacing in the dark. A man who loved the canal too much to walk away from it, still keeping his vigil more than a century later. Incidentally, Pancake Lock is also haunted by the ghost of G.W. Pomeroy, an Akron, Ohio man who took his own life at one of the lock gates. I'll link our video of that haunting in the description below as well. Charles Carter's story belongs to the canal, and it tells you something about the people who built their whole lives on this waterway. They loved it with a ferocity that apparently didn't end when they did. Inside the Canal Exploration Center, the accounts are quieter, but they're there. Staff have noted an atmosphere in certain rooms that doesn't match the rest of the building. A heaviness that comes and goes without explanation. A place that housed boatmen, bootleggers, gamblers, and travelers across 150 years of continuous operation has a way of holding some of their essence within its walls. Whether what lingers at Hell's Half Acre is the energy of those Irish workers buried along the canal's edge, or the boatmen who spent their whole lives on the water and had no home but this stretch of the Cuyahoga Valley, or even Moses and Polly Gleason presiding over their rough and tumble establishment on the banks of Loch 38, something about this place resists being reduced to just a museum exhibit. Some history doesn't want to be tidied up. It seems it would rather be felt. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time as we explore more curious history. Take care.